Hello and welcome to Access Paranormal. Tonight we have a very special guest with us, and that's my son Mark Williams. Well, I'm saying with us. I recorded it about 12 months ago for the show at the excellent Podcafe in Liverpool. It was recorded over 2 sessions and I have now edited it down to this one show for you. Mark shares his thoughts on spirit talkers, lucid dreams, psychometry, water studies and audio frequencies. We also discuss a trip to St James's Cemetery in Liverpool that we did at the time. Following Mark, Jack O'Lantern shares 2 of his ghostly stories, The House of No Return and Christmas Time in 1954. Let's dive into our conversation with my son, Mark Williams. What's coming up now is my son, Mark Williams. Now, we've managed to drag him in. We've been asking him to come in for a long time, haven't we? We finally pinned him down.
No more excuses.
So it's quite a privilege now, isn't it? We've got him here, you know.
He's trapped now.
I know. And Mark, well, what we've got him for is, I mean, when I said to someone we're doing lucid dreams, and he went, "Oh yeah," I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, it's a great subject." And I was thinking, "Yeah, but you can't have like sex on the street on the show, can you?" You know, like that. And he went, "Do you know what lucid dream is?" And I went, "Well, I thought it was something like that." And he went, "No."
Oh dear.
So anyway, they gave me a little inkling of what it was, and when I found out Mark was into lucid dreams, I said, "You've got to come on the show." So all I can say is welcome to my son, Mark Williams. And Mark, tell us what lucid dreams is, even for me.
Yeah, lucid dreams I've had since I was a child, and I didn't realise that it was anything different to the way anyone else dreams, because you don't really talk to other people about dreaming, or if you talk to other people about dreaming, you talk about the content of the dream usually, don't you? If you do talk about it.
Yeah.
But then you don't really talk about how you dream. Like, so lucid dreaming is like, my usual way of explaining it to people is, you know, when you're having a dream and then you realise you're having a dream, and then there's about 2 seconds where you're like looking around like, I'm in a dream, and then you wake up. That couple of seconds where you're perfectly conscious within the dream and you're looking around at the dream environment around you, that couple of seconds, because you're conscious, you're lucid. That's what lucid is. It's like us now, we're lucid, we're awake. So it's like being awake inside the dream.
So is that when you have a dream? Have you ever had, if I'm right, have you ever had a dream where you're dreaming, then you wake up and you think you've woken up, but you're still in a dream?
Yeah.
And then when you wake up, you're thinking, well, you're getting all confused.
I think it's related to lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it might technically be lucid dreaming, but I know that there's a few readings out there that you can get, a few books and things that kind of explain it, but it's all explained in the way of different cultures around the world. Because I've read like sort of like Native American variation of like, say, shamanism that seems to be connected to the idea of lucid dreaming, and then there'll be like, I don't know, Indian tradition and like Buddhist traditions and different spiritual traditions which seem to be tied to it. But the books that you can get specifically on lucid dreaming are all quite modern, because science has only just started really exploring it, because the way they proved it was interesting, really, because when you go to sleep, your body, your brain cues a chemical to sort of paralyze you, but the part of your body that doesn't get paralyzed is your eyes. So when you're in REM sleep, your eyes jutter side to side, don't they? They like vibrate side to side in REM sleep.
Can you explain what a REM sleep
REM
is?
REM sleep is REM is rapid eye movement. This is when you're asleep, because your eyes rapidly bounce side to side. That's the deepest part of your sleep, between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. roughly, depending on when you go to sleep. But that's like the deep sleep part. That's where you do the most amount of dreaming. So with that, when you lucid dream though, your eyes don't vibrate side to side. They look wherever you're looking in the dream when you're lucid. So then,
so it's like virtual reality.
the original virtual reality. It's like, so lucid dreaming can actually be longer as well. It doesn't have to be that couple seconds where you realise, oh, I'm dreaming, and then that little burst of excitement kind of wakes you up, doesn't it? You feel yourself being pulled out, don't you? And you wake up.
Yeah.
So then, like, that becomes after a while, I started figuring out, oh, if I don't get excited, if I try and suppress that, oh, I'm dreaming, then I should stay in the dream, because the thing that's pulling me out of it isn't happening. So it takes a little while because obviously when you realise you're dreaming, your natural instinct is to just be like, I'm dreaming. And then, but after a little while, you can kind of calm yourself down and then focus. And then there's something I read in a book where you can draw focus into the dream. So instead of allowing your consciousness to leave the dream and go back to your sleeping body, instead you can look at your hands in the dream and do like a pattern on your fingers, because it takes focus, doesn't it? Because you're doing a pattern.
Is that what you do?
You can choose your own pattern at anything really, but I just sort of look at my fingers. Some people look at the feet and spin around on the spot because you're having to concentrate on what you're doing in the dream, which means your consciousness can't pull out of the dream, can it? Right. Sometimes it does, because you lose focus and you pull out of the dream anyway and wind up waking up. But sometimes you can fall right back asleep and go straight back into the lucid dream, right where you were, or so many minutes later or whatever.
So is that you what can put you back into it, or does it automatically do that?
Bit of both. It depends. Some people, because it's like practice makes perfect. There are different things that you can do that all. Most people have a problem starting to lucid dream, like the idea of being able to, because everyone's probably experienced what I described before, where you like realize that you're dreaming, and you have that moment of excitement, and you wake up. So for them couple seconds where you realized you were dreaming, that was lucid dreaming. Yeah. Most people don't usually go beyond that because they get excited and they wake up. But so one trick was, like I said, just kind of staying calm. If you can kind of train yourself to stay calm and recognize when you're in a dream, and then your next thought should be, don't get excited, or if it's a nightmare, don't freak out. That one's harder because it's a nightmare.
It's going to frighten
there could be like
anyway,
a monster attacking you or something. You might freak out, and then that's another burst of emotion. It's more about controlling emotions, a bit like real life, really.
Yeah, but when you're talking about lucid dreams, how do you get into that? How can you, if you want to do this lucid dreaming?
There are different ways. So things that I've learned from South American, reading South American stories on how they do it, some of the tribes, is limiting the amount of red meat they eat, which I've stopped eating red meat, and because I wasn't doing it out of veganism or vegetarianism or anything like that. It was just like, I want to see if it actually makes a difference, and it does. Like, even if I'm not lucid dreaming, my dreams are much more vivid now. When I'm just in regular dreaming, where you're kind of going with the flow of the dream, they're much more vivid, and it's like much more intense. And the idea behind it is because red meat is more dense and wet and heavier, so it sits in your gut longer because it takes your body longer to degrade it. So your body's exchanging energy to degrade that, what it could be using on whatever lucid dreaming is, that kind of idea. And also reducing the amount of sugar you eat and alcohol you drink, or things that I know you don't drink.
I was going to say, I'm all right with that part.
Things like that, like sugar and...
The sugar.
Yeah.
That's your fault.
Things like that. Like, it's usually the tribe's kind of advice for it is usually like, don't eat red meat. Or if you do eat red meat, it'd be like dried, where it's like well cooked bacon or something like that, where it doesn't, because it's dry, your body can break it up easier, and you got that kind of thing. It's
never knew that neither.
Different things like that that you can do, and again, just trying to push down the emotions when it's harder when it's a nightmare, because obviously fear is like
it's an automatic thing for you,
isn't it?
But it's probably useful in a way. It's like a training ground, isn't it? Because
don't
get excited, don't get scared, relax, everything's okay.
Do you think when you're lucid dreaming, you're in control of it?
Oh yeah.
So can you bring people in who you want to bring into them dreams?
I've never tried that, but there are like people almost like, like when you play a video game and you're the character, so you control the character. Yeah. But then there are the other characters that are computer controlled, are called NPCs, non-player characters, because there's no player control on them. It's a little bit like that. Like, there'll be people, if you're in a dream and there's other people walking around there, you can walk up to them and ask them questions, which is something another book said to try asking, just think of any question or whatever, or pre-plan a question before you go to sleep, so that when whoever you meet in a dream or whatever, you can ask them questions and they do respond.
So what got you into lucid dreams? Was it because you were getting these dreams and you wanted to understand it?
I'd always had them. Like as a child, I just thought that was just how everybody dreamed, and I used to be able to do it fluently as a child. That was just how I dreamed. Every so often, I would have a lucid dream, and I just thought that's what everyone's experience of dreaming was for, on and off lucid dreaming for everyone. But then it's only when I got older and I heard about the term lucid dreaming, and I thought, what is that? So I Googled it, because you can Google anything now. And then I realised it's not like the norm. I think everyone experiences it, like them couple of seconds I described before. I think everyone to some extent experiences it. But in terms of like I've had full length lucid dreams from like a full dream sequence, where even if like the way dreams sometimes kind of change scene, where you shift from one scene to another, like the
like
scene around you changes. But when you're just going with the flow of it in a normal dream, it kind of just happens, doesn't it? But when you're there, when you're conscious of it happening, things are changing around you. Objects in the room will change, or someone else will enter, or they'll be gone, or the person who was in the room in front of you will change in front of your eyes.
It's like a computer game.
It's a bit strange, yeah.
It literally is like having a virtual reality, isn't it?
But inbuilt, and when you go to sleep,
a proper one.
Yeah.
And it's you can pick things up like. But the strange thing is, most of the lucid dreams I've had, if I pick up that cup, I can feel it in my hand. But in a lucid dream, it's not quite like that. In a lucid dream, it's not quite like you can pick it up, but it's more sight and sound, but not so much touch. But there are the odd couple lucid dreams where when I've picked something up, I've got the sense of touch, and there was the one I told you about where I genuinely thought I'd been kidnapped, because honest to God, I've never had a lucid dream this real. But I went to sleep, and then I woke up upright in the back of a car, like I'm sat now, but in the back of a car, and I was like, what the hell? And I could talk, and I could hear myself, and I could hear, and I could feel like the clothes on me. Like, you don't really think about feeling your clothes on you, but I could feel my clothes, and I could feel me. It was like being awake, like right now. How I feel right now is how I felt in the dream, and I was like, but I was in the back of a car, so I was like, what the hell's happened? So then, I looked around, and it was dark out, but I could tell that it was Grandma's Road. Where, it was Greenfield. I was looking around, and was like, so I was like, what the hell? Then I thought, I've not been kidnapped, but I thought, have I like sustained some kind of like head injury where I've got like like Alzheimer's or some kind of like
that's just me,
thing where I can't remember what's happened.
After you.
Where I thought like maybe I've just had like a lapse in memory or something like that, and I thought you must have, because it won't have been Mum drove me to Grandma's Road. I thought it'll have been you, so I was looking around. I thought I must be in Dad's car or something. And I was
you thought your dad had kidnapped you?
But no, yes. But when you don't know what's going on, and remember I told you, I said I took my phone out of my pocket, and it was my phone.
In your dream?
In my dream, I took out my phone because I thought I'm going to have to call someone. So then I opened up.
It's the ghost.
I pushed the button, screen lights up. It's got the screensaver of I have a screensaver of Hans Christian Andersen, a painting of Hans Christian Andersen as the background, the painting that you gave me from Grandma, funnily enough.
Yeah.
And that was the background on the lock screen, and I opened up my phone, and I have a Bob Ross painting as the other background on my iPhone.
It's your world, Mark. It's your world.
Exactly. Happy little trees. And then I was like looking at it like, this is weird, because I was like, what the hell's going on? So then next minute, it was playing a song, and it sounded like Guns N' Roses. And because I know Axl Rose's voice and the guitar, but I didn't recognise the song. I was like, this ain't no Guns N' Roses song I've ever heard. And then I was like, I don't have Guns N' Roses on my phone. I have it on my iPod, but not on my phone. So then I opened up the music app, and the letters started glitching. I was like, the hell's wrong with my phone? So then I was like looking around the car, and then this is the part that linked to a dream you had, where I had the phone in my hand, and I was like, Dad? Like, sat in the car, like, because I thought you must have driven me there, but like, no, you recognise what's going on
about now,
So like, this was in like October of last year when I had this dream. I actually recorded it in my dream journal, and then didn't write anything else in my dream journal afterwards. And then my dad messaged me about a month or so ago.
You and Ian, what didn't I?
Me and Ian, because he said he had a dream about through his phone, like a phone call. He heard someone say Dad twice, and he couldn't tell whether it was me or Ian, because on the phone we kind of sound the same. Ian's my brother.
As clear as anything. Dad. And I was in bed.
Yeah, two dads. And then I was like, no, we're fine. 'Cause he was like, he was all right. I had a strange
Mm.
dream, and I was like, yeah, no, we're both fine. And then about an hour later, I was eating my tea. I was like, oh my god,
Yeah.
I know
It
what-
just clicked.
It like clicked. So then I ran back into the computer room and picked up my dream journal and flipped through, and the last entry was that lucid dream. I'd remembered having it,
And he was saying, Dad.
and I was reading it, and it was like I'd written like, and I called out for my dad. I'd said I was holding my phone, and I called out for my dad, but there was like 4 or 5 months gap between the two
Mhm.
dreams,
That's freaky.
But
and I'd never told him about the dream
No.
until I remembered when he messaged me saying,
Yeah.
"Are you both all right?" And then at tea, I remembered and was like,
Mhm.
"I've not even told
It
my
was,
dad about
yeah, it
this."
was in the early hours of the morning, a message you did. I just went, oh my God,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to make sure they're all right.
yeah.
I thought, I can't ring them because it's,
No.
and it's one of those things that I can't ring them.
I'll
Even
just
though you
text
think
them
they're all,
anyway,
I'll
like.
text them though.
Yeah.
So
Ping us
message
the
and I
next
went,
morning.
Mark, are you okay? Let me know as soon as you can. Ian, are you okay? And you
It's
both
the
replied and
weirdest
said,
thing.
yeah, Dad, we're all right. Well, yeah, we're
The
okay.
next morning, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
But I
that's
felt
just
better
like-
then.
It was
It
only
was just
once
that
I
fear.
remembered. I was
Yeah.
like, and then I read it and was like, oh man. So then I added to the dream journal a little like asterisk with a my dad had blah
Yeah.
blah blah dream, and
My dad's gone loopy.
but it was
That's
strange because
weird. Yeah.
this particular dream
That's
is
not
the
a-
only lucid dream I've had where I genuinely did not know that I
No.
was dreaming until when my phone started pixelating and glitching. I was like, something's off about this. So then that's when I was like, Dad, and then I remember I tried for the door handle on the car, and the car was locked. You know, like
Mm.
your car where the back door, the child locks on it
Yeah.
for the grandkids. And so I couldn't open it. So I was like, what the? So then I'm thinking, oh no,
I'm
it
stuck.
is real life.
Hmm.
I am awake because the door is locked like your car door always is, and I always have to wind down the
right.
window or get Ian to open the door.
Mm.
And then I was like, something was niggling at me, and I was like, no, it's too weird. It's got to be a dream. It's weird that I'd be
Mm. Yeah.
like, there's no way I'd be in the back of a car on Grandma's Road. So then you can kind of control things a little bit in lucid dreams. So a couple of times I've sort of moved clouds, like you can just wave your hand and
Really.
yeah, and it just kind of like it'll take a second or two and it'll move. But it's all intention based. That's another thing with lucid dreaming. It's just like if you just wave your hand and you're not intending anything, nothing happens.
So
But yeah, that is when I did that. The clouds moved. And it
mm.
wasn't actually nighttime, it was daytime, but the clouds were causing it to look like nighttime and the sun was there. And then when I moved the clouds, afterwards, I was like, oh, I'm in a dream. This is the weirdest dream I've ever had because it feels like real life, but then the clouds clouded back over again and it was dark again. And I remember just thinking,
I know.
It is.
It's incredible. But can I
remember-
ask, Mark?
go on.
You know when you people say, "Oh, you were daydreaming, and you're in your own little world of your own." Is that lucid dreaming? You know, have you ever done it where you must have done it yourself,
Yeah.
Jonathan, where you're just sitting there and you're going to work, and you know, like we're looking at that picture there, and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, and then all of a sudden you can actually put a story to that picture, like you can see somebody walking out
It's
of
not
the
quite
room.
mind
lucid
just
dreaming,
goes,
but I
doesn't it?
think it'd be a bit like meditation. Like sometimes people pick an object to meditate on, or in India they have mandalas. You know, the big murals. They look like a you know, like remember Spirograph, where you could
Yeah.
like get the pen and it'd make
Do-
a geometric shape. They have them in India, and some of them are used to stare at for meditation. You kneel down and stare at them, and then your imagination drifts off, and whatever you get from that, some people write it down or they retain it and use that for like some kind of spiritual guidance.
Right. And you know, you say you had all these lucid dreams. How do you define a lucid dream to a dream?
Well, being conscious of it, it's like when you're dreaming, it's kind of your subconscious, isn't it? Like, this is where the field of psychology is interested in, because you dream and there are signs and symbols or whatever's happening around you. It could be like a roundabout way of your mind's way of trying to let you know, don't do that. Or
Right. And if I wanted to go into lucid dreaming, how would they start?
like I said, it's all intention based. When people know about it, they tend to start to remember. You know, like when I said about the 2 seconds where you go, "Oh, I'm dreaming." People then latch onto that and start to think, "Okay, don't get excited." And you can kind of draw it out, and then it's kind of exploration. You know, the hand thing, trying to draw your attention into the dream. It's all attention and intention. like one to the next like stages. It takes quite a while. It's not something that people are going to be able to just like overnight figure it
like
out.
Months or years or whatever.
Yeah, it's taken a fair few years of just experimenting with different things and myself, and this is why I've like dropped eating red meat, and that works. And I eat and drink. I drink no sugar unless I'm somewhere and
people
someone gives me a
meditation
can of Coke.
as well.
Yeah, that's good. Oh, and the music. The frequency music on
Yeah.
YouTube, you can get binaural beats.
Yeah. Well, what we'll do is, because it's come to the end of the show, to Access Paranormal. My name's Jamie Williams, and where we are again, back in the Podcafe, and my son again, Mark Williams. Now, the good thing is, we kept him here, didn't we, for the next show?
He's still trapped.
Well, there's the only
Been
way
here for 2 weeks.
It's the only way. It's the only way we can actually keep him in the room.
Hello.
Because we say, "Oh, you come on with it." Oh, I'm a bit busy. It's like, you know, it's like the celeb, isn't he? What's that other show you're on? What was the other podcast you're on? Crow 777.
No, I've not been on that. I've been on Jason's, but Crow has a co-host called Jason who has a podcast called Secrets of Saturn.
Right. Well, they are good advert for both of them anyway, and they are good because I've listened to them. In this show, we're going to be talking about St. James's Cemetery, where we went the other week with me, yourself, Marie, Lewis and Louise. So we went down there and had a good time down there. It was fantastic. And we met a woman who was a free spirit. But we'll talk about that in a few seconds' time. We'll also be talking, if you can see here in front of us, we've got some unusual items. I'll let you think about that one. We won't mention it just yet because we're going to be talking about St. James's Cemetery. So let's go straight into that now. And you all know St. John's Cemetery, right at the back of the Anglican Cathedral. If you've never seen the Anglican Cathedral before, it's our spectacular building out there in Liverpool city centre. And St. James's Cemetery is round the back of there, isn't it? It's a fantastic place. And we went there, and it was one of the most unusual nights we've ever had in a graveyard. We used in this, like, I know you go give us a good answer for this in a minute. We used an app, Mark.
Right.
And the app was called Spirit Talker.
Right.
Now the strange thing is we thought, you know what, let's give it a try, because this one's supposed to not pick up on anything apart from whatever's around. You'll give us a good answer in a minute, won't you? Because I can see it.
I don't know how to do that, but okay.
and the funny thing is, we took it down to St. James's Cemetery with us as an experiment, and 90% of the words what were coming through were people's names. It's gone bum, 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 name after name after name after name after name. And we were in the cemetery.
The only way I could think of it doing something like that, if it's an app, depending on who produced it and how legit they are, is the way your phone listens to every conversation you ever have, even if you're not on a phone call. And then when you Google something, it'll be the thing you were just talking about. The only way I could see it is like if it was a bit like the Alexa or Siri type thing where it speaks back to you. Where they've kind of programmed it to run in the background.
To it, though?
It might. I don't know. That's what I say. It depends how legit the producer of the app is, wouldn't it?
The funny thing is, Mark, is when we took it, all these names were coming through, and some of them are really old names. And it was strange because there was one name that came through quite significant a couple of times, and he's actually buried there.
Oh, I thought you meant your names.
No,
not ours. No.
Just loads of different names like Elizabeth, Isabel.
Yeah.
Names like that just coming through all the time, weren't they?
It told us there was 5 of us there twice.
Yeah, and there was 5 of us, so we couldn't make that one out. And this is what it was like all the time, wasn't it? It was just like.
I mean, I'm a bit like that with these apps.
We always are.
Yeah, because they know if you make something like that as well, like a lot of people know it's a good mark or usually an easy market, because like a lot of people will want to just try something out to see.
Yeah.
So like, even though you might not have to pay for the app. They might have a sponsor. Or
no, we had to pay for it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. It's like £3.50 something. Now, me and Millie went up to Scotland. We went to this, it was like a fort kind of thing where they had cannons in and that. And it's the border between England and Scotland. And it was a Scottish military what were there. And we didn't read anything about it, and it come up and it says they're English. So they were battling against the English in that area.
Oh, were they?
And it came up that they're English. But it was coming up with other things when we were in there as well, which was really strange. And there was one of them where I said to Marie, I'm cold. And it went, I can make you colder.
Well, this is where I was saying a moment ago about, the way your phone's always listening to you. It could, like if you ask Alexa or something, she'll give you a response. Like, they could program the app that way, for all you know, just to put a bit of logic behind it. Or the location services, because you said it came up about their English. If you were in a place in Scotland with that history behind it, let's say you got location services turned on, your phone will know where you stood, which means the app might know where you stood.
Right.
I don't know. That's
we'll have
just
to
my
do
logic.
a different experiment, not talk about it at all, but location off.
And say nothing.
Say nothing about where you're going or anything.
Yeah.
And then put it on and try it.
It's so difficult now, isn't it? Because of technology
is.
being
yeah.
so, like,
Sat
creepy.
navs and God knows what else, yeah. But, we went off a little bit of a beaten track, but that was my fault because I was talking to Mark.
Sorry.
But, no, it's not your fault, Mark. It was me, because I can talk.
It's interesting to get a different perspective
of course.
on it.
This is what we want.
Yeah.
It's not about, it's genuine. This thing's working. It's nice to see the different angles of it, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Now, St. James's Cemetery itself, it's a very unique place, really, isn't it? You were saying 55,000 bodies buried there. And a lot of them are children, because there's like a row of graves. Have you never been there?
I've been to the Anglican.
Have you been down into the cemetery at the back?
No.
There's a row of graves right the way along the wall. Children from an orphanage.
Oh, right.
It's got list after list. But we went right round it, didn't we? Now, there was another one we went to. We went to the very far end, and there was a crypt. It looked like a crypt. I'll put the picture up now. And what was that?
The plant behind you just dropped off the...
Did it?
Yeah.
Your studio's falling apart.
It's the ghosts.
Paranormal, that.
Yeah. Now, as you can see on the screen now, that's a crypt. And now, the weird thing about this one was it was half embedded into the stone, and it was just so weird. We couldn't work out who it was. There's writing on it, but you couldn't really see what the writing said. But the stone was like embedded into it. It was like, and that was like solid, that one,
Yeah.
But we went to there, and then you were telling us the story about the 666, the grave.
Yeah, there's one with just the number 666. You have to make your own mind up upon that.
Yeah, when you found it, I didn't.
It's near enough in the centre as well.
Not far from the Huskinson's Museum. Mausoleum, that's the bit.
In between the two.
Yeah.
So, sorry, that's what we're drinking then. It was just a phenomenal place, but the strangest things happened. Me and Lewis were on one end, and Marie and Louise gone to another part.
Yeah.
Not too far, but far enough that we couldn't see each other. We had the walkies to make sure we were okay, and if anybody came through, we'd radio through, so and so's coming, and that people are coming. We heard this voice singing away, didn't we?
Yeah. I mean, it was around midnight-ish, so you think...
Yeah.
You're in the middle of Liverpool, just on the edge of Liverpool city centre.
It's a drunk.
Yeah. But it wasn't... she had a nice voice.
It was a lovely voice, wasn't it?
Good singer.
Yeah.
But then she came down the tunnel and into the cemetery, and we were a bit taken aback at first because all you're seeing is this girl come down.
I've seen this movie before.
Dressed in a robe. It was the strangest thing, and she said hello, didn't she?
Yeah, she went. I went, hello.
Yeah.
Was that you? I went, hello. Was that you singing? She went, yes. I said, thank you very much. Like that. She went, it's a lovely full moon tonight. I went, yeah, it is. Yeah, because you're not sure what to say. It's like 12:30 at night.
But then she sort of...
hovered?
She sort of, it was like she floated.
Yeah.
Halfway across the cemetery.
I was like,
it was the strangest.
So we radioed through to Marie and Louise. Looked, strange things just happened. This figures just floated past us and spoke to us, because we were all like, I know. And then Lewis goes, should we go over and talk to her? And I went, Lewis, it's 12:30 at night.
3 men.
3 men walking up to a girl and saying, can we talk to you? It does not go down very well. I said, it's not something we want to do. I said, So we got onto the walkie-talkies, and we got Marie and Louise to follow her. But by the time we looked to where she was gone, she was down near the mausoleum within seconds.
Yeah, but even Marie said when they'd actually caught up with her, it's like she disappeared.
Mm.
And then she was sort of shouting there, wasn't she, before she got to it, just so she didn't just want to go right up
Didn't
to
freak
it.
out,
But then she started talking to her.
And if anybody wants to hear the interview, because she was absolutely fantastic.
Oh,
we have to call her Free Spirits because she didn't want a name known. Fantastic. She was absolutely brilliant. And it wasn't a ghost.
No.
She's brilliant.
Marie was telling me when I was last at yours, she was saying she goes and sings to the graves, to the spirits, and goes to, there's a spring there, isn't there, or something?
Yeah.
Yes,
like
well,
a spring.
If everybody knows the story of Little Grace's name is on the stone. It's not far from the well or the spring.
Yeah.
We had a taste out of the spring, didn't we? Now on the screen now is the sign which says Little Grace on it. Nobody knows who she is or if she's there, whether there's a spirit of Little Grace around. We don't know. If you go along and you want to see this, because it's lovely, because it'll keep a memory alive, won't it? If you're ever in St James's Cemetery, go to the spring. So you've got the spring right in front of you. You can go to your left.
Yeah, it's just to the left.
Keep going to your left quite a bit before you get to. Just keep checking the arches.
Yeah.
And then you'll see a name. It's quite low down, but it's there on the left-hand side of one of the arches. Yeah. If you see it, just give it a little tap and tell her that she's not alone, because it's lovely. Now we're going to be changing. We're going to be changing the subject. We're going to be bringing Mark into this one. We'll be talking about, in a second, trigger objects. Now, we were talking a little bit before about, things what can you can pick things up on, and you were talking about in the last show, lucid dreams and things like that. Psychometry. You got any opinions on psychometry? Why people pick things up? Yeah.
There's a interesting thing that I recently watched about water and read about as well. Is water can hold memory. So this is what, even in mainstream science, they're now studying water because it can hold memory. I think I told you the other day that like when water is moving, it's more alive than when it's still. Even if you just put it into a cup, when it's still in the cup, it's less alive than it was when it was running out the tap. And you can test this with like pets. Like when we run the tap in ours, the cat will jump up and try to drink out the tap, but will ignore the bowl of water that you put out for it. Like apparently loads of people's pets do this, dogs, cats, everything. If you've got running water when it's moving, because it's more alive, it's more fresh, like a spring. It's moving, so that's more pure.
Is that why just a quick mention of the St James's Cemetery, because that's where we were, is that why there's a spring in there, and that free spirit girl drinks, she collects water from it and drinks it?
It could be, because water is, like I was saying, it's now science is realizing that it does contain memory, and when it's more alive, it's more pure as well, like a way of clearing what some people are installing, like a copper coil in the under the sink for the tap, because they found that the water that it produces is more clear, more clean. But the thing with water is when because it contains memory. When you think about all life contains water, like we're mostly water, aren't we? And we obviously have memories and things like that. And then when you think things like stones are also technically considered living, because stone contains minerals. Minerals are living. It's I don't know if you've ever seen like Kirlian photography or Carillion photography, where they take a photograph and they say like it's someone's aura. Yeah, that kind of, it's like a new age thing, but it's actually like they're now calling it a biofield, because aura has a bit of a negative kind of impression these days. People think it's nonsense, but we do emit electromagnetic energy, and like we know, electricity connects with water. And water contains memory, and people can pick up on things. So if something like living, like a rock or a tree, plant, grass, nature, an animal, that will all emit electromagnetic frequency, and probably all contains some amount of water, which means it could technically contain memory, because water can contain memory.
So that's where trigonometry, or as you say, psychometry, is you picking up that.
You could, it's not like previously it would have been outside the realm of scientific possibility or logic, because we didn't necessarily know that water contained memory, apart from like tribes, people who passed the information on from generation to generation would have said, without putting it in the scientific terms, they've said that it contains spirit or whatever, that sort of thing. But now science is actually finding that water can contain memory and does contain memory. So when you think like that, if you're made of water like we are, and then you can pick up things from water or from maybe stone, wood, because wood is trees, life, animals, different things, objects, that if it contains life and water, then it could contain memory.
That makes them 4 objects.
These ones here?
Yeah, even more interesting, because without giving anything away, they've been in contact with water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For seawater as well.
For a long time.
Say no more, Mark.
No, but there's a reason I was saying it, because salt water is... So if you notice, like, lakes don't have a tide, ponds don't have a tide, but seawater does, because there's salt in it. So this is connected to electromagnetism. There's a shift, because the tide goes in and out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This is to do with water connecting to electromagnetism. So what I was saying a minute ago ties in another way. So when you think about it, there's loads of things that tie in it. In the scientific world, this actually is like somewhat not logical, but it's a theory that kind of is on its way to being established, that water does contain memory, therefore objects that contain water could contain memory. So if you, like we contain water, if we pick something up, then there's a connection being made, isn't there? It's like, I guess, like plugging a USB in, the electrical current's flowing. Water to water, and the electromagnetism is passing.
So when someone picks one of them up, because it's been, what's the name, they can go to picking something up, so it could be genuine that they're picking that up.
Technically, it's the part that's hard to measure is the mind, because how do you measure what's going? Like,
you can't, can you?
Even like people who meditate, they could genuinely be getting something from the air around them, because there's water in the air as well, and so you could be picking up on memories. The idea of a collective consciousness existing, a bit like the iCloud on Apple, where everything just gets stored in the cloud, but in terms of memories and stuff.
Isn't that the astral planes?
Yeah, and the Akashic records and things like that. Like, these ideas have floated around all over the world in different cultures. And now science is starting to realise, like, oh, wait a minute, these people that we previously saw as savages actually seem to be onto
what they're doing, But you do a lot with frequency as well, don't you? Audio frequencies and that. And as you know, and a lot of people know, we've been doing a bit of binaural recordings.
Yeah.
And it's something we are so fascinated with, the way it works, aren't we? Yeah. And I mean, what's your opinion on stuff like that?
That, I think, is going to be, from what I've seen and read and listened to people in the industry who work with that, it seems like it'll be the next step in a lot of areas of technology, because of, and even in the medical system, they're starting to use like different frequencies, like, and sound to listen to, and sometimes binaural, where you can play 2 different frequencies at once and they cancel each other out, and whatever the remainder is the frequency that gets through, and it can alter your brain waves, like the same way the television screen can do, or listening to music. So like the music we listen to on the radio and what we're speaking now, this is probably in 440 hertz.
Right.
This is 440 hertz or 440 cycles. But people have found that there's a study I've told you before about cymatic patterns, where some people have probably seen it on YouTube anyway, where people get like a dish and they'll put like salt or sugar or rice on it, and they'll hook up some cables and run a frequency onto the dish. And as you change the dial to different numbers, different hertz or cycles, the rice or the salt or whatever's on the plate will start to vibrate, and it'll take the form of a geometric pattern. So sometimes it looks a little bit distorted, but as you change them, you can find frequencies that are not distorted, that create a perfect geometric pattern.
You
and
show
the pattern
me that.
Changes, and it's like, so when you think about that, some of the frequencies are a bit more distorted, and some of them are more refined and perfect. So then they're figuring out things like that to have people listen to those frequencies, because it can help with ADHD and ADD and to some extent autism and things like that.
So a quick one is this: if there was a way we could use that in the paranormal world. I don't know whether you're thinking the same as if you can get a spirit that's moving. Obviously, there's got to be some kind of vibration, hasn't there?
Yeah.
So if we put something out with, say, salt on it or something like that, I know it sounds a bit daft, but maybe. A piece on like something off the floor, which is just there, lying there, the salt. And if something goes past, the salt would move, wouldn't it? So you'd end up with something.
Yeah, because it's the thing about paranormal that I'm interested in isn't like labeling it as, oh, that was a ghost. It's like there's, like I've told you before, like our visual spectrum is limited. Like everything we see it fits into a certain color palette. But so when you get like, it's the colors of the rainbow, like red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. But then this is why you get infrared and ultraviolet, because they're outside of our visual spectrum. They're either side of it. But infrared and ultraviolet are color spectrums of their own that are much larger than the color spectrum that we see. But all this converts back to frequency, which including sound and sight and everything we see is incoming frequencies that are being translated by our brain and mapped to our eyes for what we see. So if you think our color spectrum is limited, and then there's spectrums outside that we've been able to measure, and then there are spectrums beyond that we're not able to measure. Right. When you think about how many, so the realm of what we see, what we can perceive with our eyes and ears and whatnot, is all like a tiny fragment of what's actually there.
See, there's an audio frequency that they use in horror movies, isn't there?
Yeah, they change different things.
That puts you on edge.
Yeah, they do. They can do different ones. They do ones that like white noise and brown noise and things like that like make you. Some of them make you feel sick. Like I think the musician Marilyn Manson used it on one of his records, and it makes you feel slightly nauseous when you listen to it. There are different things you can do, and you can, because it messes with your brain waves. You can alter your brain waves. Yeah. Like I think in what will be the previous episode when we were talking about lucid dreaming, you can help yourself with lucid dreaming by listening to, I think, within the theta bandwidth, THETA. If you go on YouTube, you can just Google YouTube, like you can search theta binaural beats or whatever. I usually listen to like 741 hertz. Right. And that one, for me personally, that one's quite good. It's good to, like, if you're going to sleep or you're going to go to sleep, you could listen to it for like 10-15 minutes. But it like shifts your brain waves from, usually we're in alpha or beta when we're awake. Like if we're watching television or whatever before going to bed, that's bad for you because your brain's like up in alpha. So that's what the TV's for. But if you listen to like theta or delta's even lower. That's when you're in a really deep sleep, or it might be better to do
So
theta.
We were talking about it with you before, was when we do sensory deprivation.
Yeah.
Is there a way we could do sensory deprivation and use the frequency to try and pick up?
You could, I suppose if you were listening to it, I don't know what you'd pick up because you wouldn't be able to hear unless you didn't cover your eyes. Because if you were listening to something you're not going to hear anything, are you? If you're listening to
like so get that frequency, but keep looking around in case you pick anything up.
Maybe because it's changing your brain, your bandwidth that you're in. Because it's gamma is like if you were writing an essay or something or doing something really that takes a lot of brain power, and then alpha is what the television puts you in, where it's what mentalists do, like Darren Brown, where they're moving their hands and they talk with a certain rhythm and cadence, and a lot of the TV mediums do it because it's like, probably shouldn't be saying that, but it's a trick, basically. It's like a magic trick.
Well, Darren Brown does tell you that anyway.
Well, he does because he's a mentalist, isn't he? And so his is called the power of suggestion, isn't it?
That's right,
So because when you're in the alpha state, you're actually more susceptible to you're more suggestible. You're in a state of receptive state where, so when you think about television, there's a little bit of nefarious idea behind that, because if you're going into alpha state, then that puts you into a more suggestive state. Wherever you're watching, you're more likely psychologically, and your brain waves and everything, you're more likely to believe what it is you're seeing. So, and you translate that to like the news or whatever.
I told you. I don't know where he's got his brains from, but it's definitely not me.
We know that.
Are you going to come back on again, Mark?
Yeah, sure.
Brilliant.
It's fascinating though, isn't it?
It was.
Really good.
But that's why I like ramble on with it because it's just like I'm really inquisitive. So like, if I read something and I'm like, wait, water has memory. I've got to know more, haven't I?
Does it?
Yeah. 1 minute. Well, that's why they say it's brain food. You know, when you're at school and that, and you have to put you in an exam, and they give you. It's like they've always known. Obviously, they've always known water's good for you, but it's your brain is made up of water, fat, and it runs on electricity.
Well, I've got the fat. I don't know about the water.
Like if you like, coconut butter and coconut milk's in natural fats, aren't they? That's what your brain's made of. It's like good for
this will go
memory.
one day.
This will go margarine.
Anyway, listen, I'm stopping it there because there's 2 against 1 here, and I haven't got a chance. But we've got to stop there. We've got to say again to thank Podcafe, to Roy, who's behind the scenes there, and Claire for letting us into this fantastic studio. So anybody else who wants to do a podcast on anything, get in touch with Podcafe. Get on the Facebook page, get hold of them. They're brilliant. Yeah. So, again, I've got to say thanks to my son Mark for coming in.
Thanks, Mark.
Even though he was in here for the second one, we just grabbed him while we had the chance. So that was my conversation with Mark about a year ago it was now. And as you can see, he knows his stuff. I don't know where he gets it from. It's definitely not from me. But it was a cracking interview with him. And, who knew about water, what water could do. In the positives and the negatives, and Lucid Dreams was an interesting one. He studies so much, nothing like me, but it's great to have had him on the show that time, and I'm hoping he'll come back on again because he's got other interesting facts to talk about as well. And I keep saying to him when I see him, "You're gonna have to come on the show, Mark," but he's busy. He's a writer as well, so he's busy with other things. So trying to pin him down to do the show is very, very difficult. But you know what? We'll get him on soon. I hope you enjoyed that with Mark. I'm very surprised at what he knows, but well, I shouldn't be really. I'm quite proud of him to be doing all that stuff. And next we'll be going to Jack O'Lantern. Now Jack has got 2 stories coming up in a second, and he'll be having another one next week. When we start our investigation, we're on with Haunted Scouts next week, so. That's a good one. That's going to be over 2 sections, so it's going to be one for Christmas and one for New Year, so that should be a good one for you as well. Well, I'm hoping it is. They were fantastic. We had a great night, and have a listen out because it was a cracking night we had with them. Obviously, the show's pre-recorded. Anyway, off the subject there a little bit, but now we're going to be going across to Jack O'Lantern, and he's going to be telling us his 2 stories, so it's over to Jack.
Hello there. I wanted to share with you a rather chilling ghost story I was told recently, so here goes, it stayed with me. So it involves Diane and her young daughter that had been visiting Diane's parents over in Yorkshire. Now, on their way home, they go over the Yorkshire moors, and there's a terrible storm out. Now, Diane's car wasn't in the best condition, and eventually it does break down, of course, in the middle of nowhere. Now, she doesn't know quite what to do. Neither would I, given that situation, to be honest. So eventually the pair of them decide we're going to have to go out into the rain and find help. So that's what they do. They get a newspaper over their head and off they go out. Now eventually they come across a stone-looking house, sort of in the middle of nowhere, but the lights are on, so they think, thank God, help finally. They knock on this door, and a stern-looking lady answers, looks to be in around her 40s, has her hair tied back in a bun, glasses, black dress. Diane explains the situation and, she's more than happy to help. She invites the 2 of them in. Diane asks if she can use the lady's phone, to which she replies, there's an old landline in the back, yes she can. Her little daughter goes straight to the fire, tries to get warm. It's been an awful storm outside. Now, through childlike curiosity, she begins to explore the house, because looking back at this story, both of them say something was off. There was a strange smell clinging in the air, almost very sweet, and the wallpaper was peeling off. It was in not the best condition, and even though the lady clearly lived there, her things were round, the house didn't quite feel lived in. Something felt off. So anyway, her child goes round exploring the house and comes across a staircase, and she hears somebody sort of scuffling round at the top of the stairs, but it's completely dark up there. Eventually, a little girl emerges. Excuse me, don't think my cat liked that story. Eventually a little girl emerges and peeps her head round and says to the other child, "What are you doing here? You shouldn't be here." She stares back. "What do you mean we shouldn't be here?" Anyway, suddenly Diane emerges, grabs her daughter and says, "We're leaving." Apparently the phone that was there was disconnected from the wall. It hadn't worked in years. So, along with the state of the house, the strange feeling that was in the air, and the fact that this phone's disconnected but the lady said it was working, it all wasn't adding up. Something was wrong here. So grabs a little daughter, makes her excuses to the lady. "Actually, I'm going to try and repair the car. Thank you so much for your hospitality." And they quickly make it out into the night. They want to get away as fast as they can. But walking down the old cobbled path, Diane realises, "I've left my handbag and the car keys are in it." Frustrated, she spins around. The house is gone. So the two of them are staring into the darkness, and where a house once was, there's only bits of rubble left and tall weeds everywhere. And there, sat in between all the weeds, where the room would have been in which she'd left a handbag, is the bag there laying by a weed, covered in rain, as if there was never a house really there. Her and her daughter were speechless all the way back to the car. They didn't say a word to each other. So eventually help did come from a passerby, and they mention it to this chap, and he's a local farmer. Because at first when he sees him, "What on earth are you two doing out here in the countryside?" And then, before they can even relay any sort of stories, he says, "Don't you know this road's haunted?" And Diane says to him, "Excuse me?" She wasn't in the mood for any more tales after what had gone on. And he says, "Yeah, a woman and a daughter used to live up in the hills. But during the 1940s, there was a terrible house fire, and they were both killed. Eventually, due to being an eyesore, the house was knocked down." So, what do you make of this? A bizarre, terrifying time slip? Spooky, right? I researched long and hard to give you a terrifying, true ghost story for Christmas. This never-before-told account comes from 79-year-old Anne. Get ready, it's a scary one. It was Christmas time 1954, a terribly cold year I recall. Myself and my younger brother Billy went to stay with my Aunt Hilda for the holidays. Dad was fighting a sickness, and Mother, being a nurse, wanted to care for him in peace. We didn't like staying at Aunt Hilda's. She lived in a large Georgian-era property on the edge of the Scottish Highlands. Me and Billy would say it was haunted, and that Christmas, it was confirmed. My brother and I arrived at the house on December the 24th. I remember everywhere being a brilliant white from the snowfall. Immediately, being children, we noticed the frozen lake, pleading with Aunt Hilda to let us skate on it, which she naturally forbid, scolding me at the very notion. That night, around 11 p.m, Billy woke me up excitedly. I expected him to tell me Santa had arrived, but no. He explained the boy outside had invited us to skate on the lake. Peeping out of my window, I noticed a lad aged around 12 stood in the snow, wearing only ragged clothing. How isn't he cold, I wondered. Nevertheless, childish thoughts in mind, we crept out with our ice skates under the bright shine of the moon against the snow. The boy was now gone, but we could see his footprints in the snow, leading us to the frozen lake, so we followed. Strangely, Billy and I heard his voice beckoning us to hurry, but we could not see him anywhere. Suddenly, as we approached the frozen water's edge, the boy came into focus, stood right in the centre of the lake. "Quick, come on, you will love it," he whispered. A sense of dread washed over me. I recalled Aunt Hilda's warnings vividly. But Billy, being only 7, jumped right onto the ice. With that, a loud crack pierced the night air and Billy smashed through the ice into the dark water. I screamed to the boy for help, but he had vanished. Luckily, I managed to pull Billy out eventually, just as he was at death's door. As we scrambled for the house, freezing cold, the boy appeared in front of us, blocking our path. I noticed he was now floating several inches above the snow. He whispered solemnly, "I just wanted friends that would stay young like me forever. Please, the dying can be quick. The ice is so cold." With that, I screamed out in fear at the very notion of this ghost. And out of the trees appeared Aunt Hilda in her dressing gown. She took us back to the house and we recounted our story by the fireside. Aunt Hilda naturally dismissed all stories we told of the boy. However, I could see in her eyes, she knew it was true. It's safe to say after that Christmas, we never returned to Aunt Hilda's. With that spooky story in mind, I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody that has followed and supported the Jack-O-Lantern page this year. Have a Merry Christmas.
So that was Jack-O-Lantern with his 2 ghost stories, and I've got to say they were brilliant as usual. Now, I've got to say a huge thank you to Mark Williams and again to Jack-O-Lantern for coming on tonight. We're coming to the end of the show, but don't forget, next week I'll be out with Haunted Scout. So we'll see you then. From Access Paranormal, good night.